Hello, Mom Belle here. Whew. Welcome to another mom vlog. I want to share with you 3 specific instances that happened to me while being a foster mom and adoptive. These 3 things truly has had an impact on my life, and I just want to let you know that I'm going to cry. So be prepared. Hi, we are Luke and Heather Bell, and we have 8 children, and we are just the Bells 10. As you know, we adopted 7 of our children, 1 through private adoption and 6 through foster care. I told you I'm going to cry. And I just want to share with you 3 specific instances that happened with moms, birth moms, that really have changed me, that I can't forget, that when I think about it makes me cry. And I want to share these with you because I just don't think when people get into foster care, I don't think they realize that it is a lot. And like I've said before, it brings so many emotions. So I want to get to it. I don't want to take too long. But the first instance I want to talk about is when we adopted through private adoption. And how this birth mom really so when we started the process with private adoption, they have you fill out a form. You have to make like a scrapbook showing your family why you want to adopt. You write a letter to the birth mom telling her, you know, why should she pick us? Why do we want to be parents? What kind of parents are we? What's our family like, you know? And you're so excited. And we were so excited. And we got picked. And the birth mom wanted to meet us. And so we had a meeting time. So we walk in and it was so different. Like we were super excited when we got prepared. And then until we sat there across the table from the birth mom, it's like, woo, like that happiness and that joy for yourself. When you sit in front of the table and actually are looking at them and talking to them, it changes. And I'm sitting here at the table and I'm looking at myself and I'm looking at the birth mom and I'm thinking, this has probably got to be one of the most strongest women I've ever met. To want to give your child to somebody else to be their mom. And sometimes you don't see the 2 sides, right? So you see your happiness, your excitement, but then when you see their side and you see that she's crying and her mom's crying and the trust and the strength it takes to say, here, raise my child for me. And when I walked in, it was just like, oh, like it became so real on how hard it was and how tough it was. And she was so beautiful and she was so kind. And before she even got to know us, she hugged us. Like I've told you before, she's like, I've told you how this birth mom was the best hugger ever. And she still is. But I just had so much respect for her because of the decision she was making on her own. And I'm so thankful that we did open adoption because I wanted them to still be a part of my son's life. I wanted us all to be a family to support him and to be the community around him. And I'm so glad we did that because I got to know her and I became friends with her and I love her so much. I love her so much. She always has a smile on her face. She always gives me a hug. Even when she's struggling with things, she's just so positive. And so I just want, if you're thinking about doing a private adoption, yeah, it's exciting, but it gets real when you meet them and you hear from them and you talk to them and you see how they're struggling and that it's another person that is making a hard decision. And it's just really hard. And so that's like the first instance that really has been an impact on my life of just really making sure that I think about other people, you know, and see the whole picture, you know. So that's number 1. And the second incident with a birth mom was one of our children was in our home and we had him for, you know, quite a little bit. And we really worked with the birth mom and the birth dad to be able to get their child back. We let them come into our home. We invite them to church. We let their family pick them up and visit them and have visits. And, you know, we did whatever we could to help them. And just with certain circumstances, they weren't able to get them back. And I remember the termination hearing was scheduled. And so I ended up going. I had to go by myself because, you know, somebody had to watch the children. And did me and this birth mom see eye to eye? We didn't. But I loved her because I loved her child and her child loved her. And oh, foster care, it's just so different, you know, and there's just so many things. It's just not a plain and simple thing. It's just so complicated. And so I remember sitting there in the courtroom and they were doing whatever they were doing. And I just was like staring at the birth mom and I could tell that she was defeated. And she was just like, I'm done. And even though I really wanted to adopt the child, there still was somebody else that was going to be losing. Do you know what I'm saying? And I remember sitting there thinking and looking at her and thinking, why are you fight? Like, I want you to fight for this child. Fight for this child. Tell the judge you want this child. Fight. And I'm sitting there in my head yelling like, fight, say something, do something, fight. This is your child. And I know that might sound really weird, but even though we love them, that's still their birth mom, you know, and it's still breaking up a family. And she was just done, you know, and so all the way home I cried for weeks because just the thought, and I can still picture her just defeated. And I thought, oh my goodness, I want to hug her. I want to hold her. I want to tell her it's going to be okay. You know, and it was just really, really hard. And that's another incident in my life where I had to really just be like, okay, you know, and that's why even though foster care is considered closed, that's why we keep it open for any family member, mom, dad, grandparents, siblings that are doing great. They all have access to our home. They can have a relationship with our children because they need it. And I've told you guys this before. It's not about me or my husband. It's about the children. It's about healing. It's about, you know, support, you know, and no matter how much any birth parents ever do to us or birth moms, you still love them and you still uplift them to their children. You just have to. It's something you have to do. Whew. That was number 2. I think that's probably the hardest. And the third instance was another birth mom who the circumstances were a little different. And we were friends with them, friends with the dad, friends with the mom. The dad had passed away. And so it was just mom and great person, super great. But at that point in time, she wasn't in a place where she could take care of her children. And so instead of just like being done, you know, we're like, well, we'd like to sit down and talk with her. We'd like to sit in a room and discuss what's best for the children. You know, because it would, you know, you're going to find in foster care, each situation is different, right? Some might be very serious where they have to terminate. Some might not. And if not, it's okay to work with them. So I remember sitting in this big, huge room and it was us and the birth mom and the DHS and lawyers and judge and everything. And we sat around this big, huge table to talk about what would be best for the kids. And it was very intimidating to have all these people around, you know, but I'm sure it was more intimidating for her because another incident where she's gonna willingly give up her rights to the children and trust us with them. Because really it's a trust, right? Like she has to trust that we're gonna take care of her kids. And so to watch her agree to it with tears, it's so hard, you guys. And I don't think you don't see this side unless you're a foster parent, you know? And so after the decision was made, I right away ran over and hugged her. Like, hugged her. I couldn't stop hugging her. Just because when somebody gains something, somebody loses, right? Like when you gain something from somebody, you're gonna take away something. And I just hugged her and I said, listen, we love you. We're here to support you. You can see the kids whenever you want. Spend Christmas with us, spend Thanksgiving with us. We want to be a help to you, you know? And it was really hard for the kids because they were such different ages that the older one, kind of really knew what was going on, where the younger ones didn't, so they struggled. And so it was so hard. So it was really important for us to make sure that she was around and involved for their healing and for her healing, you know. And to this day, she's doing great. She has her own business. She's smart. She comes over, she sees the kids, you know. I mean, it's just, I don't really know why I wanted to share this with you, but I think the reason I did was because there were 3 women with 3 different situations that willingly trusted their children with other people. And that's why I just think it's so important to really be supportive of birth families, to really make sure that you can incorporate them into your home as much as possible and really build them up to your kids. Because these 3 women like completely changed my whole outlook on family, on sacrifice, on love, on foster care, on adoption. Like, it just really made me rethink things and to be very careful, right? And to try and be kind, because I don't want to ramble, I'm a rambler, but because it was a sacrifice, right? And whether they were doing great or not so great, that doesn't mean they don't love their children. You know, it's just really, really hard. And so as a mom, these 3 moms have had an impact on me, whether they know it or not. And these 3 instances are instances that I'm always going to remember. I'm going to picture it. I'm going to picture it. Picture their sweet faces crying or defeated or confused or afraid. And that's why I think it's so important as moms, as foster moms, adopted moms, that we support each other, you know, and that we support these birth families, birth moms, support other foster families and birth moms, because we need it, you know. And look at me, it's been 23 years for one, 16 years for another, and 13 years. And I'm still like this thinking of it, because it does affect you forever. It affects you forever. So I just really wanted to share these with you. I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about them. And I just want to be real with you guys, you know, and whether they like me or not, I love them. And I'm thankful that they trusted us with their children. And our home is always open. Our home is always open because our kids need it the most. So thank you for, if you haven't already subscribed and like our page. Thank you for just letting me vent and share some, you know, deep, heartwarming things that I've dealt with, you know, and thank you for being a part of the whole crying fest. And when it comes to my children and their families and this whole, you know, adoption thing, it's if you don't truly get upset over it, then you're cold and heartless, because you can't not have emotions when you're talking about this stuff. I mean, it's just such an impact on your life. And, you know, and I mean, I'm excited to see what the future holds with my kids as they get older and find their own families. And then they have like triple, quadruple moms and dads and grandparents and, you know, whatever. But thank you so much for just sharing this with me. And I hope it makes a difference in your life. I hope if you're maybe struggling with a birth parent, I hope that this will help you to see things differently, because there is 2 sides and there is 2, well, I'm not gonna say that, I'm gonna say there is 2 families, and everybody has to adjust, and it's just, I know I've told you that before, sometimes nobody wins, you know, and it is about the children. And anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling, but thank you so much. I just appreciate your support, and until then, we meet again. Thank you so much for supporting my emotions and my tears. All right, thank you so much.